Cemetery Commission, meeting in person, on August
16th.
16th.
2022.
Okay, now that's done. I added this. That he left the meeting.
Right.
That he physically left the meeting. We have the minutes of last month's meeting. You want to just read them through?
If I can find them. I was elsewhere. Last month, would that be the 19th of July? Yes.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I've been flipping through this book trying to upload minutes for hours. So, July 19th, 2022, 3:15, called the meeting to order by Barry Ager, Chairman, Robert Guile, Superintendent, Commissioner, and Brenna Ewing, Secretary. Brittany Berlin Cable Access operating the camera. Read the minutes for June 27th, 2022, which were moved, seconded, and voted unanimously. Discussion of bills, none outstanding. Apparently, the fiscal year of 2021 is paid and closed, year-end forms completed and submitted to town accountant. New fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022 with the same budget as last year. Discussion of the north driveway apron. Plan for full reclamation out on the street and to do our apron at the same time that the Highland Street full reclamation is taking place. Robert Guile confirmed with Fred Cummings. Barry sending letter to Fred and to the town administrator to piggyback our project onto their project. And that would also include the South Cemetery and Pleasant Street paving as well.
That's for, not for that project, that's for another project.
For the other, but it's the
For
piggybacking
coming one, yeah,
planned for
yeah.
both. Discussion on a September 3rd ashes burial in the hillside lot for Carl Hill, in the Hill lot, sorry, for Carl Hill Jr. September 8th, 8th, not September 3rd, correcting that. Burial to be at 2 p.m., is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Superintendent and chair to attend. Discussion on mid-October ashes burial for Janet Powers. Died on January 4th of this year, 2022, and she's going in the same grave as Dean. Discussion.
Wait a minute, Janet?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Discussion regarding the need to make a new price list.
Yeah, I still haven't done
And we're planning to update to include extended options from the base prices as well. So yeah. Robert Guile did a removal of a single grave at North Quaker Wall, number 1C. Turned back in on 7/18/22, signed by superintendent and client. And we need to create a form for such procedures. notating with town that we received a deposit of $200 in the general receipts, which was the $300 to dig up the ashes minus the $100 rebate on the grave space to the family. Copies of fiscal year 2021 year-end documents have been filed. Motion to adjourn, second and voted, passed unanimously.
Any additions or corrections?
Very good.
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. What do we got for bills?
Just two.
Superintendent's pay, $458 base pay, 150 for burials and $50 on an ashes removal. And that gives us $658 for that bill. We have one grave at $400 from Marjorie Wheeler and Sons. And that gives us total bills of $1,058.
Do you need me to record all those details, or?
No, you don't need to record those. We'll have those on file and copies of these papers.
That's what I thought.
We'll have copies of these papers on file. Approved? Are you in favor of approving?
Do we need to second it? Approving?
Yeah,
Approving
yeah,
bills,
yeah.
yes.
You and I are approving it.
Bills,
You two guys have to do that.
right, that's right. Bills review,
Because he's got a bill on
right,
this one, he's not gonna act
including
on it.
superintendent pay. Approved. And signed.
Sign on the signature one.
Yep.
Cute.
I haven't made copies of those yet.
Yeah, no, put them over here for after the meeting. That's taken care of. Other matters in the cemetery that we need to know about?
I got a notification for the conservation hearing for tomorrow night for the paving they're gonna do on Highland Street and Randall Road.
Okay,
This is, I don't, want- that's, came in the mail.
okay, so this is to notifying the cemetery of the redoing of the Highland Street road surface. And, Conservation Commission has to hold a public hearing on it, which they're doing on August 17th, tomorrow evening. Are you planning to attend that?
I good to go.
Hmm?
I think I should go.
I think that's a good idea. I don't know whether I will, I pray not, may not, but that's a good idea to have somebody there, just to see what's said.
Do you want me to go with you?
If you want.
What is it? What time is it? 7?
7:30. In the room just down the hall to our left here,
The big one.
the big room just in here, yeah, 218. And we don't wanna talk too much about that at all, if we can help it.
Yeah,
We know what's going on as far as we're concerned, and unless there's some other issue that comes up, I'd just as soon not have
just go there to observe.
a lot of talk about what else is going on.
Well, maybe you don't want me to go.
Well, it's no big problem, you just listen, you
That's
just
all.
don't probably need to say anything unless something comes
I'll
up.
defer to you, cause it's your
Otherwise, yeah.
baby.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I want to, we don't want to talk about other subjects, the future stuff, because that's not part of it.
Right.
We're dealing with that
Totally.
and that only.
Yep.
That's on the Highland
Yep.
Street road job only. And, okay.
Gotcha. We got this in for tomorrow at 7:30. We got the room in at, got it. Attend.
Okay,
Yep. And I have more paperwork for the graves. The grave I sold to Chris Pendergast.
oh, yes, you've sold a couple of graves
Yes. to-
Yeah,
Up
and
to
that-
North
in North Cemetery.
Cemetery. And
And
I did
this-
all that paperwork.
No, yeah, yeah, but we don't have to do any, I mean, that's just office work.
Yeah.
Okay,
Fred's gonna call me with some figures for the driveway up to North. He said that because it's with the bid stuff hasn't gotten sent out, it's late, they probably is not gonna get done till next year.
Oh,
what's not gonna get done to?
The paving on Highland Street, and I just got off of the phone with him, he's not sure because of the bid stuff didn't get sent out, waiting for it to get. So, it's probably more than likely it's not gonna get done till next year. And that's because he was waiting for.
I understand, for people to act.
Yes, and, cause he asked the guy and he says, best chance scenario, one of the guy, probably the end of October, where they could even get in to start to grind it. And even the grinder guy says that's really too late.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so he was gonna give me, I just got off the phone with him, so he was going up to do some more measure, he was gonna give me figures for it anyways, and then give a 10% if it increases. He was hoping maybe oil would come down and maybe it would be different price next year, but.
wow.
So that's where that situation is. And he wasn't too happy because he said, I'm gonna spend a fortune on hot top up there, patch all winter long, fixing the roads.
It's a mess.
It's a mess, and,
It's a terrible mess, and that means they gotta keep doing things to it.
well, that's what he says, it's gonna cost a fortune to patch it every time just to keep patching over.
To get through another winter.
Another winter,
Oh, my God.
yeah. He was not happy
Well, when did you have this discussion? It's this week?
with Fred,
Yeah.
about 10 minutes ago.
Oh, God.
Well, the thing that fouls us up on is, we're waiting for the next project beyond it to put
Yes.
our cemetery driveways into, and our money's gonna run out next June.
Yeah, so we would either have to find something different or be on the list for 1st of April or something.
Okay, so here's Island Street's a mess. And here's our apron coming down.
Yep,
And we have a crown right about here.
yep,
And then we have
crest of the hill, crown.
crown of the hill. What if we did this much ourselves?
No, I
No.
think it's a waste of time, it's a waste of
No.
money.
No, no. Where are you talking?
This is at North,
Island.
Yeah, at North, and what's happening at North?
I'm saying, what if we go within 5 feet of the roadway, which is, this is still theirs. This belongs to the town.
yeah, no.
This belongs to the town.
The reason we're doing it with the town is so when they pave it, there's no seam at
We
all.
won't have a seam
I
along
know.
here.
I
You'll
understand
still
that.
have the seam
I
down
understand.
there.
I understand that.
And they were also gonna, when they do pulverization, it's a
Yeah.
huge rototiller.
Yeah, no, I know.
And
And have a good base under it. Well, that's not, the issue that I've got big time is the fact that we got the South Cemetery driveways that we're 3 years now trying to get done.
yep,
And,
And you try to do the same thing there.
and that was supposed to be combined with another project or two
no,
and get
bind
put in.
it with top, cause we agree that it should be the same
Town administrator talked to me
Material
about
for
this.
with that apron on the street and everything to join
Months
together
ago.
better, and then
I know.
further in.
And they were
talking
working
about
on
chip
doing the
seal.
Highland Street thing.
It should be
And
straight
they were,
hot top.
I thought they're gonna just move it right ahead then. And I said, well, when we
Well, I know you
couldn't
talked about
quite be ready to
2.5
do that right
inch and a
now, but
half,
we could, you know,
4 inches at least.
if there's another project coming up, we'll put it with that one.
For a base,
And now here we are, 3 months later, and they've done nothing. As far, I shouldn't say
Yep.
that, but there's other prep that's been done, but they haven't got the thing out to do it. May not get it done this year.
I don't
It's
remember.
terrible.
I don't remember, and I know originally they just got dug up, then they
So-
went over it.
And we've got
I
a
would-
sunset
I would
clause
think
on
where
Everything.
school buses
Half of
and
our
stuff
money.
turns, it would be
Yeah.
better to go,
for next
to
June.
me, I would go with a 2.5 and the inch and a half
And
on it. That
meanwhile,
may-
we wanna go
that
in
may
and start
be-
asking for money for the cemetery driveway at North Cemetery, and this wasn't done.
I
Okay.
seriously think that we should
Alright, thanks,
find
Fred.
a way to move
Bye.
something of ours forward without them.
Well,
Cause this is like, I've been here a year.
highway, when we do our driveways, highway does the prep for us. That's the big thing. They do the prep. They dig out what's there and
Or
get the,
cut the edges and take the.
cut the
last
edges and
one.
fix the soft holes and so forth.
They did the
And
high
then
spots.
a paving company comes in and paves it.
Mm-hmm,
So we can't really do it without highway.
right. Well, I'm just thinking about maybe cutting the project into smaller bits so that we could use the bulk of our money, and when maybe we have to, I mean, sunset clause is a sunset clause. Be good
Well-
to get something done.
The sunset clause can go to town meeting and get pushed back again, but that's happening all the time. And there are those, the moderator gets very irritated when they create these sunset clauses and then they have to push them back and push them back. It's all foolishness. I think they shouldn't put sunset clauses on things if they can't deliver.
Yeah,
Or they should put them a year beyond when they think they might get it done, because it's silly to have to come
right.
back and
I've
do
heard,
it
I've
over
heard
and
these
over.
words before.
Take time on
I've heard
the
this.
town meeting floor, changing the town sunset clauses.
I've heard this. I agree with you. We said it the last time. Totally agree with you. Why do it?
Because it makes the auditor the accountant happy, that's why they do it.
Cause you don't have money sitting in an account for 15 years.
Okay,
Yeah, but maybe something more realistic, like 3 years instead of 2 or 1.
Yep,
You know, maybe a realistic, because when it's a one-person task, it's on you to go do something. But when it's a multi-level department partnership between private and public and
God,
all that
yes.
stuff that this is, it takes time to
Anyway.
get to the goal.
Anyway, well, I also have a problem going in and asking the town for the next chunk of money when we haven't even spent the money we've got.
I know
Yeah.
that. I know that.
Real problem with that, because I feel it's not fair to the,
Taxpayers.
to the
Of course not.
citizens.
And and if the citizens took a hard look at it, they'd be like, how is this happening? Of course they would be.
Absolutely.
I can just think of 5 people right now, the tops of their heads would blow right off.
Well, it's,
And I agree with them. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know whether this would be happening if we weren't having a change in the town administrator and all that stuff too. I mean, the fact that we've got a change in leadership here that may have some effect on some of this.
stuff getting done.
Yeah. At any rate, I'm gonna bypass that now. I've got a couple of things I need to bring before you. One is I have now found out where to get D2 solution. That's small d and the number 2, D2 solution. It's a biological agent that's used for cleaning gravestones. And I found out that it's manufactured by a small firm in Westport, Mass.
Oh,
They do no sales, they do only,
pickup?
only wholesale to dealers, and they have a limited number of dealers that handle it. There is a dealer in Westport that handles it,
Okay.
and they do it basically cash and carry only, kind of thing. They have small kits for, $100, $150, whatever. They also sell 5-gallon containers for $300 and 55-gallon drums for an amount of money I don't wish to even talk about. It is expensive, but it's the standard material that, I mean, unlike using bleach or something else to do it, you're not putting chemicals into your ground and
Yeah.
on the things that
I
are
mean,
potentially long-term harmful.
yeah, bleach dissipates.
Polluting, yeah. This stuff is supposed to be non-polluting, and it deals with the various things that grow on the stones. It is, and particularly the black, whatever it is, mold or whatever it is, that is the key thing on these white
Stone.
marble stones. It makes them look just terrible. Yeah, it costs $297 for a 5-gallon bucket.
what is it? 290?
$297.
Excuse me.
And it's available through that dealer in Westport. You can go down and get a 5-gallon pail and bring it home.
Excuse me.
I'd like to acquire some so we can have a chance to work with it. I have worked with it a little bit when I went and took my little course on the subject.
Great.
And I've found other sources that talk about using it, and
Yeah.
the people that were leading that were very expert in that whole process. The things that we saw them do were incredible. They had slate stones that were in 5 and 6 pieces, and they epoxied them together,
Wow.
laid them out on a board and epoxied them together, and let it lay overnight, and the next day we put it back up again. There
Wow.
it was. And as they said, well, that's good for another 50 years.
Yep.
They did quite incredible things. And they also had their own little tripod and come along and stuff, and they picked up big chunks of stones and put them back up and did that with them. I'm not so enamored with trying to do that because,
We can build one.
oh yeah, but I'm not as enamored with trying to do it because the chances of having something happen and somebody getting hurt are are greater. I still think I'd rather go with somebody with power equipment doing the lifting. If it, major lifting.
Yeah,
of
something
a stone.
big,
Yeah.
big.
At any
Still-
rate,
Still, just
but the
nice.
D2 solution is the biggie that I'm thinking about, and I'd like to acquire a bucket of that
Mhm.
for $300, or almost that.
Does it work, what other does it work on, Barry? Did you see him work on it? Does it work on granite too?
Yep,
And slate? Do they use it on the slate?
yeah, they can use it on everything.
Any,
I mean, the main place I want to use it is on the white stones, but
yes, but
will work on other things too.
some, some of the granite ones are pretty, there's some of them that are pretty covered over too.
Oh,
Like-
yes.
Cause it'll take
Slate.
off the lichen too, the
Marble.
Yeah,
tree moss.
I mean, you can scrape the stones with plastic scrapers,
Yeah,
not metal scrapers, but plastic scrapers.
yeah,
And a lot of the lichen will come off that way.
yeah, especially if you do it when it's wet.
Yeah, yeah. And then you use just bristle scrub brushes, not wire, but bristle scrub brushes.
Yeah, something you'd use in the house to
Yeah.
clean a floor or
Yeah.
something. I know exactly what you mean. Could-
With the D2 solution and water. And you can do that on almost any of the surfaces, as long as you're thoughtful and careful.
Does,
It's very important to use the right sorts of brushes, but other than that,
Yeah.
you're fine. And you just brush them and you put the stuff on, you put the stuff on, you scrub them a bit, you rinse them, and then a lot of them will still look dirty. You just squirt some more D2 on it and walk away, and let it sit. Let it take care of itself. You may want to do another application 6 months or a year later. But I have seen where they've used this stuff. And there's a cemetery up in Gloucester that we were working in, and they had a cemetery that had been completely unkempt for 50 to 100 years.
well,
And they cleaned it all up, and they've got all these white stones in it that are bright and sprightly white stones.
just like just like the three down at South that somebody
Yeah.
paid to clean up.
Yeah. And it's just remarkable how they've cleaned up,
My neck.
and,
Sit up straight.
and, I mean, in this case again also, they've put some of them back up that were falling over and all those kinds of things. But I'm just stunned by how good that the marble stuff looks when they've used it and come back to it. So now that I know where we can get some, I'd like to get some.
Sounds good to
And
me.
we can also start working with perhaps some people that want to volunteer and help and
So do we want to make a
Teach
motion
people to
to
do it.
go ahead and do this?
Well,
yeah.
does it work just in certain temperatures too,
Hmm?
Barry? Does it work in just certain temperatures? Does it have to be hot, warm, can it be cold?
Is there a temperature range that you're supposed to work in? Probably.
I was doing it with them in the summer when it was real warm, but I don't have any, I will check that.
Okay.
I don't have any sense that it won't work in,
May to September and stuff like that.
above 50 degrees or above,
Okay.
50 or 60 degrees. I mean, I think it'll work fine at temperatures like that.
Okay. And-
I don't know, it might not be so good if it's cold.
Yeah, it's
I
like a-
wouldn't be, but who wants to go out and do that in the winter?
Yeah, well, I'm just curious if there's it's like that spray foam, you spin the crack, it's supposed to be 50 or 60 degrees for it to
Yeah.
really work right.
Yeah. I do want to see about shelf life on it.
Okay, once it's opened.
I want to see what the shelf life on it is, if there's any issues that way.
Um,
Because you don't want to buy big can of it if it's gonna be good next year.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
and if you're gonna do that, you'd wait till the start of next year
Yeah,
and then,
buy it at the beginning of a season.
and use it.
But I have seen it work, and really does wonders. And if we could do it with a few things that are really a mess, and particularly some of the stuff in the front of the cemetery that people see a lot, it would be nice to have a sense that things look better.
All kinds of articles in this, all kinds of YouTube videos on them doing it.
About D2?
Yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah, big time.
Does it
It is.
require any special safety equipment to use?
No,
Not even gloves?
you could use gloves. I don't think it's essential, probably good idea too.
Okay.
It's,
Usually if it's environmentally safe, it's pretty,
but we didn't use any safety equipment. We weren't using masks or anything at that time. This was
Okay.
before the pandemic. We did. No, I didn't have any sense that, it isn't particularly caustic.
I would think if it's environmentally safe, it would be fairly
Yeah,
safe.
yeah,
What's your email address?
it wasn't caustic.
You
Uh,
don't have one?
You
Yeah,
spray.
I remember.
You take some and you put it in a spray bottle. You
Okay.
get your standard spray bottle that you'd use to spray anything.
Anything, okay.
And you put some in a spray bottle, put some water in a spray bottle, and you go,
Which one are you? B Ager37 at Gmail? Is that you?
hmm?
That's
You-
Barry.
That's you. Yeah, I'm sending you the material safety data sheet on this.
Oh, okay. I seem to recall that they diluted it a bit,
I would think you would because,
but I saw, one of the things that I read on it said not to dilute it. But I know that, I'm quite sure that these guys that were experts on it were diluting it,
maybe.
because it is expensive stuff.
Yeah, and also maybe it depends on how dirty the stone is too.
Oh, yeah.
I bet if you didn't scrape the stone and you did it full strength, you might not have to do a second application.
Well, that's another
But if you
matter.
scrape the stone and spray it on and then, clean it off and then come back and do another, it's probably the
Yeah.
same,
And I know-
same thing.
I-
It just makes it go longer.
I know like I said, with the lichen, if they're wet, they come off real easy. You can
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
much about clean.
After rain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it rains, it take everything off. Well, you can sit there with a hose too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
wipe
right.
And,
One of the things is never pressure wash stuff. Never pressure wash gravestones.
right.
That has the possibility of loosening, knocking off loose pieces and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, no,
Oh,
very
yeah.
bad.
So you
can
never use,
also-
never
you can
wanna use
also
a pressure
Cut
washer.
right into the surface of the stone
Yeah.
with pressure washing.
I
Oh my
mean, this
God.
stuff, you squirt it on with, something that you'd squirt on the window
Right.
or something like that, and scrub it a bit, and you are paying attention to what you got for a stone as to how you're treating that, and it's not, it's not particularly dangerous. It's quite satisfactory to work on.
all right.
Nate?
So I'd like to make a motion, we continue to investigate this and purchase a 5-gallon bucket if it is a practical thing to do this year.
Yeah, to see, especially check on the shelf life.
Well,
Yeah.
I just sent you both the material safety data sheet, so it should
Okay.
be in there.
Yeah.
Should be in there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
So-
They're gonna send us one?
I just sent it to you.
Oh, you sent it to me,
I just sent you
okay.
the MSDS, so all the questions that we just were
Talked about
discussing
are
ought to be
addressed
in
on it.
there because it's
Okay.
it's a federal document.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
So,
do those at work.
yeah, let's read up on it and get back to this.
Yeah.
I second the motion. Ready?
And buy a 5-gallon can if it's appropriate.
Sure.
And check on the shelf life.
Yeah.
As far as, because depending on what it is.
Yeah, I mean, we don't wanna
open
be
it
stuck
and
with
lose it,
a whole bunch that we don't use this year and not be able to use it next
use
year.
it, Yeah,
As long as its shelf life is decent, then we're fine.
and there might even be a way to seal it, even if it isn't, that has it last longer too.
Well, that's true too. And we'd also wanna check on where you keep it,
Yes, yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely.
whether
Gotta
you
be
gotta keep
heated.
it away from a freezing place.
Yeah, heat's gotta be heated, I would almost think it'd have to be in some, heated for the winter.
I would think so. I would
And
think
then
so.
again-
I mean, 50 degrees would be fine, but you don't want it freezing up.
You don't want it at 5,
No. No.
and then we'd have to know about the,
All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye. Okay, other thing I got, on Friday, I had a guy call me up. And he's from Clinton, and so he drives through town all the time and sees things. And he's been looking at the tipped over stone up at the burying ground. And he'd been in and looked at that, and he went down to the police, and the police had him call me, and I went up and talked to him.
Cool.
His name is Gary Fucile, Fucile. And he's in Clinton. And he apparently deals with, he's got some reasonably heavy equipment, I won't say enormous heavy equipment. And he says he's got the equipment to do it, and he would like to, and I told him what we needed was we need it dug down and a 3-foot foundation under it in concrete, and then the stone put back in place. And he said he's got the stuff and the people that can pick it up and put it in place and so forth. And he's got, and he's proposing to do this as a community service thing. And there's a couple of others there of a similar nature where the stone's tipped off of the thing. And he would work on those and do those for us.
Nice.
It sounds pretty good to me. At first I was a little, needless to say, questioning, but as I talked to him, he sounded very reasonable and like he knew what he was doing. He has not worked with gravestones before, but when he talked about picking up that big stone that's over now, he talked about putting wood slats under it and over it and hitching them together and picking the thing up that way, which definitely sounds like he understands you gotta be careful with it and protect it, not be doing it in a way that's gonna
can't use a chain on it.
damage it.
You can't use a chain on it, you gotta use
You
can't use a chain.
you can't use a chain.
That's
You
why
gotta
they all
use,
have lifting straps.
you can use slings, but you can't use a
Lifting-
chain.
A lifting,
Probably the same things that you use to move refrigerators, those wide straps.
that's what Paul has, it's thicker.
Those thick wide straps that are designed for
Yes.
heavy lifting
Right,
of heavy loads.
Right.
And you
Yeah.
use some
Right.
kind of come along
That's what-
lifting straps, right.
That's what Paul has
ratcheting
those.
thing,
Yeah.
yep.
Paul has those if they have to move a
Yeah.
stone.
So the knocked over stone is in
The front of the burying ground.
the writing of these.
And there's a couple of more further back that are similar situations, not
old.
as big, but similar situation. And he would like to work on those, and we talked to some about several things, and I was showing him some about gravestones and stuff. He clearly didn't have a lot of background with that, but he did have background with
Sure,
the kind of work, the physical work that
sure.
needed to be done.
What, say his name again?
Fucile.
Gary F.
And I told him I would bring it to the meeting and see what you folks said and get back to him.
Sure.
I have a feeling that if we say go ahead, it might happen fairly quickly.
I think it sounds good. We've been talking about doing it. Let's do it.
Yes, and he also sounded to me like he might have, a little time available to do it
Sure.
currently.
I would say the only caveat is that I would want him to pick a date where we could be participatory. We could all, if we could all be there, or as many of
Yep.
us as could be there, I'd be all for. I would love to be involved in that,
That's
fine.
because I think that's
One of the things
yeah.
not to be in their way, but to witness
Yes.
Witness and help.
and
You
help if we
know,
can.
Yep.
Because sometimes something could come up and they might need an answer to
As
a
he
question.
talked, it sounded to me like he had people at work for him, and that, you know, he would have more people there, two or three people or
Cool.
something there.
Very cool.
Not be something he was trying to do all by himself. And he's got a couple of daughters who were with him at the time, who he thought this would be a wonderful experience for them to be around and see stuff like this and help.
Sure,
So,
sounds great.
I can call him after our meeting and talk to him and see about arranging something.
What about insurance?
Yeah, that's the other question. We need to,
Well,
It's current.
I don't know that we have to have the town added onto his insurance, but we need to know that he's an insured
well,
Person.
you should,
contractor.
when you send it, they have to, you have to get a copy of his insurance from the insurance company, not
Yeah.
from him.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
anybody
Right.
can,
Right.
can use
Anybody
whiteout.
could make one.
Anybody can use whiteout.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
And
yeah. We would need an insurance certificate. I think that's true.
You know, what about equipment? Was it the size of his equipment? That's all
Yeah, I don't know what the size of his equipment is.
as you start running around in there, you could very easily cave in if something that's too big. That's why some of them are very leery about going in there with something of any size.
Well, he was there when I was talking to him, so he knows what the space is like.
I
He
know,
knows what he's gotta do going in and out. But we also need to point out that you've got graves there, and we
Yeah.
never know.
and then you don't know, just
We
'cause-
never know what the condition of those is underground.
Well,
Right.
just 'cause there's an empty spot doesn't mean there's not somebody buried there.
Right.
And that's,
Yeah. Yeah, we have to be careful about, heavy equipment there. Yeah, I guess I gotta find out about equipment.
Well, what is the weight of our heaviest mowers that are used in there?
Oh, not very-
well,
not-
the mowers that I was mowing with, they're probably 1,000 pounds, 1,200 pounds, plus the weight of the operator. So you're talking max 1,500 pounds,
There's a number.
but, you know,
1,500 is
But
your.
that's also spread out over some space too.
yeah.
But,
Well, the other thing too, you know, start with that number, but then if he has 4x8 sheets of plywood,
oh, yeah,
if he's got something to spread the weight out that
Yeah.
he could drive on,
yeah,
that adds. I mean,
which we do all the time.
yeah.
It's one
So
of the things we do all the time.
yeah.
So, and if need be, we could provide some too.
Sure.
Yeah,
Um,
that's not a problem. We have.
yeah, we gotta talk about how heavy equipment is and be aware of that.
So if he's got
That particular one, that's the big heavy one, we have no evidence that there's anything really much downhill from that. And that's the area where John used to bring in the pickup truck and turn it around and all
I
that
think he
stuff.
used to pull in and back down, cause I've actually done that with my pickup, I was in there.
Yeah,
And I pulled in and went up and then back down towards the foundation and straightened myself out.
yeah, and he'd drive in and back toward the hillside and then take the mowers off the back of the truck
We-
onto the ground.
we could go get some.
And the town, when that wood, they were in there with those John Deere tractors they have too.
We could go get some green downspraying spray paint and mark off the known places where trucks have driven on the ground. So you have, you know, if he needs to drive
This is part of why we'd like to be there.
yeah. But I'm saying,
Yeah.
you know, if he needs to back in his pickup truck with his trailer with a machine on it, we could pre-mark where he could,
Mhm.
you know, you could easily go this way or that. You know what I mean? We could mark that with some kind of not innocuous green that wouldn't like stick out for 6 months.
The-
No,
when-
what is that green
When you're
spray?
talking about the John Deere, are you talking about the, when they did the,
Picked up
when
the
they
tree.
picked up the,
Tree.
no, the big stone that went on the,
That was the front, they used the
Two.
loader for that.
they brought the loader in there,
The big loader.
the
was-
big loader,
Yeah, it came, but they just drove in,
yeah,
over, just
Yeah,
straight down
yeah.
in, picked it up and then backed
and,
out.
and backed up. So we've had real heavyweight
Yes,
doing the straight
In the
driveway
apron.
going back.
in straight in.
And George was, in that same period, George was in there with the big pickup that belonged to the fire department.
I was
But
in
I
there,
was
I
there.
was in there at the same time too,
Yeah,
with my pickup.
yeah. So we've had vehicles in there,
So you've
not
had,
such heavy vehicles.
you've had
but-
some potential areas where
Yeah.
at least you can get in there with equipment to a
Yeah.
certain extent.
Yes.
But it is a place that we have to be careful about heavy
Yeah.
weights in the place.
Yeah,
And I told them, I said right out, I said, we haven't dug a grave there in over 100 years, because we've had like 3 burials, but they've all been ashes, because we won't let them go, we're not gonna dig any graves in there. Too many things that we don't know what's there,
Nobody
Right.
knows.
right.
and nobody knows for sure, and therefore we do surface stuff, that's all.
That brings up, again, the question of writing a grant and getting ground penetrating radar survey of that. I know we have a lot of things on our plate, but we should really try to keep that in the front of our minds, because that would be really excellent to know that.
You also
Yep.
would do it there, you'd write enough too to go in the front field at North Cemetery to find out if there's any ledge up there too.
Find out about the ledge.
At North Cemetery,
Yeah, we could do the two both at the same time,
because
definitely. Yeah,
there's a couple of spots that get dry quick up there,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's just cause it's the
What'd you
knoll
say,
of the
ground penetrating radar?
Yep,
yeah,
they use it quite often, a lot of looking for different things.
Well, I know they did that in that early cemetery in Northborough that really belonged to Westboro originally.
Yeah.
All the way down
Yeah,
near the
yeah,
golf
yeah.
course.
On Brigham Street, yeah, and Northborough. And I know they did a job on that, and of course, in there, you can see mounded graves.
I have to say this, that this is the time of year that engineering schools might be offering courses where they have, they're looking for towns
Practical
that
experience.
practical experience with their students. And this is when they're writing the curricula, so if we could start making some calls, we might be able to get on somebody's list to do it for free,
Yeah,
Yep,
This is now,
as a school project.
as a
sure.
school project.
or Saturday lab or something.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
Yeah,
go out and do it.
yeah. I mean, we know the only real information we have in that place is the stones themselves.
Right,
Yeah, well, it's just like,
We know there are plenty more people buried there.
right,
They
We
may
have-
be buried in the same places that somebody else is.
right, of course.
Because
Yep,
Wow.
they
on
could
those
be
places,
stacked.
they buried them in the same place after a long time.
well,
Right.
that was good conservative Yankees.
Yes.
Don't waste the space.
And, but, there's over 400 gravestones there, but we know there's a lot more people there. Because it was the only place we had to bury in the town from the time the town started until
Right,
1857. 80 years or so, and then they continued to bury a lot more after that. So I think that there's a considerable number more people buried there than we have stones for.
Yeah,
Now, I'm not gonna try to estimate how many,
No.
but if people died in the town, they probably are buried there
right,
for that 85-year period.
yeah, you wouldn't have traveled.
You don't
Rare
bury people
occasion
very
you
far
might have.
away.
well, they could have also been buried in people's yards, but that's a
No.
whole.
No, not generally so,
Really?
really.
You have to have I think you have to have an approved.
It really goes back a long way. I won't say that in the smallpox period there wasn't some of that stuff, but mostly no.
Mosquito bite.
And most places, I mean, Esther Whitcomb used to talk about smallpox cemeteries in Bolton and stuff. What about I said, we know of none. I mean, I've never seen a peep about anything like that
in here.
in Berlin. We only have the three cemeteries that we know at all about, and there's no family now in Vermont, they had family cemeteries all over everything. Everybody had their own little family cemetery.
Well, yeah,
Huge-
yeah.
They're huge down south, too.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, in Maine.
Yeah, Maine does that.
Where there certainly were people buried on their own land a lot.
Yeah,
There's a fair amount of that. You
yeah,
go through the woods, and there's,
yeah.
now supposedly there's a Native American graveyard northeast of Plastridge's, on the property where there's a guy building a barn out by the street.
Yeah,
And there's supposed to be a Native American graveyard back there in the woods somewhere that's not noted. And I've been meaning to try to remember to say this to you, so here I am saying it now.
yeah.
But it's not really pertinent to this discussion, but
Yeah.
it's supposed to be back there. And the Estabrook girls and their children all attested to walking around and seeing it when they were horseback riding back in the woods. So.
Northwest.
So if you were,
So it's toward the
if
street
you were
from
at Plastridge's barn,
Yeah,
so their barn backs up and the tennis court is here. It was like over there somewhere in that backwoods,
yeah,
which is the next door property. The
Yeah.
guy's building a posted beam barn on the cheap
Yeah.
out by the road, and then
Yeah.
he's got a driveway, and he's supposed to be, where he gets his barn done, supposedly building a house. Well, that's the land
somewhere in that area.
somewhere in that area.
Well, it certainly is not impossible that things like that exist, because that's
No.
very likely possible.
Not at all. Did-
I haven't heard any archaeology on anything like that.
Right. That was, but the fact that they would know that and not not formalize it anywhere, it's just not surprised me.
Yeah, yeah,
Not to their detriment. I mean, they're just it's common knowledge in their family, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of them, so that's who they talk to about it.
yeah,
And their
Yeah.
Plastridges are all gone, and so they probably knew about it too, but they're not investing any time and energy in Berlin, so it's like
No.
gone information, unfortunately.
lost
Knowledge.
That's interesting, I should talk to him about it.
Yeah.
At any rate, so I'll call them and tell them we would like to see about that. I'll mention that we particularly, we would probably we would need an insurance certificate
Yeah.
so that we know that they
Yep.
are insured and we're not getting ourselves in trouble with the town on that.
Yeah.
And we would, and that we'll talk to them about
Size
where you
of
can put
equipment.
things and how heavy the equipment is and that kind of stuff.
And time.
But if they took the big loader in and ran that along the wall in there and out, that's pretty good.
Yeah, they went, just like I said, they went straight in.
And then we know that we've had pickups turned around and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff in there a lot over the years. I don't think that I don't think we'll run into any trouble with that big one in
No.
the front. Other things, we've gotta be pretty careful. And, so we'll talk about that with them. Alrighty. And if I can get them to come over again, I'll try to let you guys know if you can come too.
How old were his
Cool.
kids? How old were his kids, Barry?
Oh,
10?
40, the kids?
Yeah.
Teenagers.
Teens, young,
Okay.
young teens,
Okay. 12, 14.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, he must be, 45, 50, something like that. Okay, Any other business?
I can't think of any,
I will report that apparently the well is dry.
Yes, I was
We-
just gonna
We
say
have
that.
no water in South Berlin. I went in on, I think it was Friday, and there was no water. And so I went to the pump shed, and I could hear the pump running in there. So I shut off the breaker on the outside of the building. And, because I didn't want the thing to run when there was no water.
right.
I did not go and look in the well, but I'm sure it's basically surface water from the swamp that we're pumping out of there.
So what I learned about my own well, because my own well has run dry,
No.
Mark Rhodes put in 450 to 525 foot deep wells at the three
The three new
properties that are
houses.
across the street. And so our old my 235 foot deep well just got sucked dry when I was watering vegetables, and things that
You've
were
got a 230-foot
200 and something.
artesian well,
Yeah, it's a sand well.
and it's dry.
Well, it did run dry, and I had the same situation where I watered successively out to the
Yeah.
tomatoes or something, and then the next morning
Wow, that's tough.
we had no water pressure, and apparently we shut it off. It was running
Yeah.
and running, and
Yeah.
we had no water pressure.
Yeah.
And I have a pressure tank.
Yeah.
And so we shut the thing off, and then we waited, and the next day we turned it back on, and it was water pressure.
came back, so
It came back, and
You have to really be careful.
Yeah.
It's slow recovering.
I can
And you're
burn.
not gonna, you
I-
just can't water much. You're gonna
Yeah.
have to
No,
use it only for the
It's terrible.
essentials.
it's really sad.
So until this gets better, there's no water there. And Bob went in and he shut it off inside, so we got it all.
I found it Sunday, and so I opened the door.
There was no water, so.
There was
Yep.
nothing. So I just,
Yep.
But
I understand.
when I did that, I went up to see him, but his car wasn't there. He wasn't home, so I didn't get him then, and then I forgot to deal with him on Saturday, so.
I got
He went and discovered it too.
yeah, it's Sunday, I think it was.
At any rate, so there's no water down there for service for them at present, and there probably won't be until it's substantial rain.
Yeah, like a hurricane.
Yeah, we need it.
Yeah,
We need come on, hurricane season.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
I
bad.
just want the rain, I don't want the wind and the trees coming down.
I know.
Hard part is the trees will come down because it's so dry.
Yep.
It's happened to Charlie Peters.
You weren't here when we went through the grief with that whole business. We had a gentleman's agreement with Kenny Pierce years ago, whereby we were pumping water off of his land, and our pump house sat on his land, and the power came in on his land. And they'd had that, for 50 years, and we had the wires were bad, and
The
and
service
the
was bad.
electric company shut it off on us,
Mass Electric pulled the plug.
pulled the plug on us. So we had to get that fixed, and we had to get it otherwise, and Mass Electric wouldn't hook it up again without I having an easement for the property. So fortunately, Kevin was very
Kind.
pleasant and kind, and we got the documents done, and Ross was very nice and made a plan of the little space that needed to be, for an easement, and we got that straightened out, and then after a couple of more years, we managed to get the electrician to get the thing done.
Well, it took 2 years because you had to go to town meeting and approve
And approve the
easement
deal,
before
the legal documents.
you could have the pole put in, because we were pulling the permit, but it was on somebody else's property. So
Right.
by doing that, then Kevin didn't have to pull a permit,
Yeah.
we did. And then, because they wouldn't put the pole in, they would
Right.
not put the pole in the ground.
And then we had to wait forever to get
Well, once the
the
pole got in,
electric company to approve it,
yeah, and
do it,
And where was this?
in South Berlin, in
In
South
S-
Cemetery.
this- where it's on down Soy Hill Road where the little pump house is. And Chip Duran had it done, but he had to wait and wait and wait and wait for it. They wouldn't come out. Mass Electric wouldn't come out to hitch it for the,
Oh,
then George called somebody and,
made it
Somewhere along the way in between, they put in, cement casing down into the ground there.
that was
But
all-
it just the ground,
happen. The groundwater,
yeah.
groundwater from the swamp there
sure.
that goes into it. And we pump out of that and we just have a little bitty pump house with a
So
pump
does
in it.
Timothy.
Hmm?
So does Timothy.
Yeah,
Which way does the water run?
It
Does
runs
run
from Timmy's house down
to the
across Sawyer Hill Road down towards Northbrook.
across Pleasant Street?
Yes,
So on the other end, it runs the other way down
towards Timmy's. probably behind us.
down towards the Assabet,
To-
doesn't
Yeah,
it?
cause towards Timmy's Pond.
Oh, that's,
Cause it's like the swamp is like the high spot and it goes kind of both ways.
how bizarre.
Yeah.
Where is the water coming from, one wonders?
Started there, probably all the water running off the side hill there off across the ledge. Kevin's got a pretty good sized pond down behind his house too,
Really?
yes.
yeah. There's a
Interesting.
big swamp in back of the South Cemetery on Kevin's
Well,
land.
yeah, but that's on Kevin's land.
Mhm.
Yeah, it goes from that whole,
S-
Yeah.
So does his land go up to Summer Road?
no,
No, so Wheeler's in between.
Right
Yes.
here, right here.
Oh, yeah, it's right behind me.
There's the cemetery and there's his land and there's.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
on
yeah,
in
that's
here.
exactly what we're talking
And
about.
it's coming down from the
And
hill
this
this
is-
way
and
and
this
going
is-
off
gotcha.
to Brewer Brook.
Sure.
it runs underneath the street there and
So,
So we're getting water from right next to where that brook is. Right near this corner here. We got a little spot here
Yeah.
that we have an easement for, that we can have that on, and our little pump house and the power coming in on.
oh, interesting.
we had to do that before
But,
Mass Electric would put a pole or anything.
but the ditch continues like it's almost like it's interesting. The lowland just goes right along.
Yeah, it does, that's where the blueberries are.
Yeah.
It's all part of the extension or,
Yeah.
I think this is more nondescript in terms of a water course, but yes. you're
Well,
right.
yeah, but it just follows right along here, cause
Yeah.
I've walked it,
Yeah,
I've been there.
yeah.
Interesting. And Tim's blueberries are all in here.
yeah, that
Yeah.
low spot.
Yeah.
Are you adjourned?
But,
No,
Oh, okay.
we're talking about the well being out.
we should
we
complete
should complete our discussion.
open session here.
Okay, so,
With no action on that, but we were just telling you that it's dry.
right,
and there's
right,
no
but
water.
the action on, get back to Gary Fusel, you're just gonna call him and have more conversation. It's not something we have to vote on.
Well, I think we should vote to approve it as long as we have satisfactory answers to the
Sounds-
things we've talked about.
Sounds good to me.
Because I think he'd like to do it soon as opposed to
Yep,
some other time.
Before it gets,
I mean, he wanted to call me tomorrow if I didn't call him sooner. Because I told him we had the meeting today. And I know that when a contractor like that has some time available and they're sort of looking for a little bit of busy work, it's when they've got the hole in their time and they
that's
might not
right,
have that
that's
hole in 2
right,
weeks.
that's right.
2 weeks later.
Second. I second the motion.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Aye. 3-0.
So the
3-0.
motion Motion to
To
approve
move ahead with that,
contingency satisfied.
proposal, as long as the
Um,
items that we've talked about are satisfied, which are
Seconded,
insurance certificate and
voted.
equipment, weight of equipment and stuff.
And when he wants to do it,
Yep.
so somebody can be there to
Yeah, I
answer
got-
questions.
We'd like to be
I've
there.
got that right,
Yeah,
helpers
Somebody can
Okay.
and
answer questions.
us on site. Okay, so then the next thing we were talking about is, do we need to take any action on this ground penetrating radar question? Is that, you're gonna do some research?
that is that's still an investigation, and that can be investigated. No issue about investigating more about that.
All right, I will try to put some time into, finding out about schools that are teaching it. See if anybody's got it in their
Yeah.
curriculum.
Yeah, is that it for today?
I think so.
Motion to adjourn?
Seconded,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
aye.